Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and this is Burial from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Burial. The right to be buried with the ceremonies of the order is one that, under certain restrictions, belongs to every Master Mason. None of the ancient constitutions contain any law upon this subject, nor can the exact time be now determined when funeral processions and a burial service were first admitted as regulations of the order. The celebrated caricature of a mock procession of the Scald Miserable Masons, as it was called, was published in 1742 and represented a funeral procession. This would seem to imply that Masonic funeral processions must have been familiar at that time to the people, for a caricature, however distorted, must have an original for its foundation. The first official notice, however, that we have of funeral processions is in November 1754. A regulation was then adopted which prohibited any Mason from attending a funeral or other procession clothed in any of the jewels or clothing of the craft, except by dispensation of the Grand Master or his deputy. There are no further regulations on this subject in any of the editions of the Book of Constitutions, previous to the modern code which is now in force in the Grand Lodge of England, but Preston gives us the rules on this subject, which have now been adopted by general consent as the law of the order in the following words. No Mason can be interred with the formalities of the order unless it be by his own special request, communicated to the master of the lodge of which he died a member, foreigners and sojourners excepted, nor unless he has been advanced to the third degree of Masonry, from which restriction there can be no exception. Fellow crafts or apprentices are entitled to the funeral obsequies. The only restrictions prescribed by Preston are, it will be perceived, that the deceased Mason must be a Master Mason, that he had himself made the request, and that he was affiliated, which implied by the expression that he must have made the request for burial of the Master of the Lodge of which he was a member. Fellow crafts and entered apprentices are not permitted to join in a funeral procession, and accordingly, we find that in the form of procession laid down by Preston, no place is assigned to them, in which he has been followed by all subsequent monitorial writers. The regulation of 1754, which requires a dispensation from the Grand Master for a funeral procession, is not considered of force in the United States of America, where, accordingly, Masons have generally been permitted to bury their dead without the necessity of such dispensation. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.